Hello, I'm Will Sampson. Welcome to the Woodworking Network podcast. Welcome to this episode of the Woodworking Network podcast. Join us as we explore the business of woodworking, big and small, and what it takes to succeed. I'm Will Sampson. This episode is sponsored by FDMC Magazine, and don't forget to take our survey at woodworkingnetwork.com/podcast-survey. Today we'll be talking to Kathy and Tony Everett, owners of Millwork on 31st in Charlotte, North Carolina. But first, I want to talk about automation, opportunity, and jobs. For nearly 3 decades, I've been watching the march of automation in woodworking, which has been well behind the pace in other manufacturing industries such as metalworking. Through much of that time, I've listened to innumerable sales pitches promoting automation, and I've come to the conclusion that we might be approaching this all wrong. From the first sales pitch I ever heard for industrial automation, the emphasis has been on replacing those hard-to-find skilled workers. Sellers of CNC machines and the like repeatedly have touted how simple the machines were to operate and how a button pusher at the control panel could do everything necessary to run the machine and make precision parts without really knowing anything about woodworking. I think that's really a wrong-headed approach. To begin with, while you probably could get by with just a button pusher to load sheet goods into a CNC, start the machine, unload parts, and turn the machine off, having someone who really understands the process is essential for those inevitable times when something goes wrong. Not to mention having people, of course, up front who are doing the programming. Running a CNC is not an unskilled task. It is a new skill for a new kind of woodworking. Focusing on how little skill might be required for such machinery not only does disservice to the processes and people who run them, but it plainly overlooks some of the real values that automation brings to woodworking manufacturers. I see at least 5 values. The first value is precision. Even the most highly skilled woodworking craftsman would be challenged to meet or exceed the level of repeatable precision and speed offered by computer-driven tools. The second value is time. Not only can automated equipment make parts in less time, but also the higher precision translates to speeded assembly, fewer reworks, and more time to handle non-automated processes. Third value is opportunity. With the additional productivity and time savings of automation, you have multiple opportunities to do more and varied work. You can sell more products from your own shop, handle more complex projects easier, be an outsourced supplier of CNC time to other shops, and although it sounds counterintuitive, you have more time for fussy processes that can't be automated, but might add value to your product. Fourth on my list of values is safety. So much of modern automation means hands and arms are separated from dangerous cutting tools. Heavy lifting becomes the job of dedicated machines, not your aching back. And good dust collection required for efficient CNC machining also protects the health and safety of woodworkers in the shop. Finally, the fifth value is another kind of opportunity. With the increased productivity and profit of CNC automation, you can invest not only in more automation, but also in training, compensation, and working conditions for your staff and you. This allows you to build an elite team that will stay with you and attract the best and brightest in the industry, while even keeping experienced woodworkers working longer in the industry. This is the future of automation that we ought to promote. Before we get to the Everetts, let's pause for a word from our sponsor. FDMC Magazine is your vital source for information to improve your woodworking business. Whether it's keeping you apprised of the latest advances in manufacturing, helping you solve your wood technology problems with Gene Wengert, or inspiring you with case histories about successful businesses and best practices, FDMC Magazine is there to be the sharpest business tool in your shop. Learn more and subscribe for free at woodworkingnetwork.com/FDMC. Today, my guests are Tony and Kathy Everett from Millwork on 31st in Charlotte, North Carolina. And they have a really interesting story to tell about changing industries, automation, and lean manufacturing in the custom millwork arena. Welcome to the Woodworking Network podcast.
Well, thank you very much, Will. It's a pleasure to be invited to this format.
Good to have you, Tony. Kathy, I know you're a big part of this too.
Yes, I'm not so much involved in the day-to-day, but we do confer regularly, and I'm very excited about where Millwork was and where it is today and where it's going.
That sounds great. Now, let's start first with some basics. Can you tell us a little bit about Millwork on 31st? How big is the operation? How many employees? What size is your plant? That sort of thing.
Sure. Well, it was established almost 29 years ago, 2 years under us, and it was 27 years when we did the acquisition. We're roughly at 40 employees now, and pretty stable at that. I think the neatest story about that is we are double the size of what we were when we purchased the company, but the same employee headcount. It is a good balance of experienced woodworkers and bringing in some newer talent to learn, and it's been fun. It's been a fun exercise and a fun company to be involved with, and the balance between salary and hourly is about the same. The industry vets that are part of this make it all part of the good story.
Now, how big is your plant?
We're roughly around 30,000 square feet. Again, coming as a mom and pop company where this thing originally started, it was always about kind of saving space. The lean technology or the lean methodology is about increasing production while utilizing the same floor space. And today we actually produce almost 3 times the amount of parts in that 30,000 foot compared to what it was when we bought it 2 years ago.
Wow. And then your market, architectural millwork, and what segments are you doing that for?
It's a good balance. Just like any good business person, you like to have balance to your business and not rely on one segment. Our 3 main segments are commercial casework, hospitals, storefronts, that type of reception areas, and then architectural millwork, upscale restaurants, upscale office complexes, into the upper floors and some of the tallest high rises in Charlotte.
Now, you've had some pretty big, high-profile jobs.
We have. We've actually had some very good contracts come through in the past few years. We're currently working in the 52nd floor Bank of America building. The most recent project that we're working on right now is the Honeywell headquarters in Charlotte. There are a lot of interesting projects that have been done over the past few years.
That's great. Now, you took over the company in 2018. What were you guys doing before that?
We were working for a conglomerate, a family-owned conglomerate, and we were in the transportation division. I was sales. Tony was the president of the division, and we covered the North American market selling school bus seats.
Kathy's very humble, Will. We had bought a school bus seating company back in 2005, six. And we grew that company from basically a $6 million company to a 20-some million dollar company, sold it to the conglomerate, continued that division over the next years, and grew that division to a $145 million division. We spent almost 35 years in the heavy duty transportation truck and bus industry, and running that companies through the hardest of times from the 2008-9 crash, steering them and surviving them and growing them, not only surviving, but growing during those hard economic times. When COVID came around and we saw the downturn this past, a little over a year ago, it's like deja vu, but the experience was already there. And we went in, and we've actually, since this past November, we're back on an acceleration of growth. So I think that experience of the past 35 years and that heavy manufacturing base taught us that lean and good business sense will not only help you survive, but will help you grow during the hardest of times.
Wow, that's good advice. So you didn't have any problem transitioning from the automotive industry into architectural millwork? I think a lot of our audience would think that those are pretty dramatically different industries.
Yes, when you go from being a metalhead to working wood, it is truly different. But Kathy and I are both what I would call solid business people. We became a power couple in that previous industry, working up to where we had a 100% market touch of that school bus segment. We love what we do, and I think it's always about passion. And then, quote Ronald Reagan, surround yourself with very good people. You don't have to be the smartest guy in the room. We have passion. We love business. After ending our corporate career, we wanted to slow our pace of life down, which led us, to find this little company here in Charlotte. And it's pay it back time for us. So we've got great talent, a mix of industry veterans with young and upcoming talent, and we're their coaches, we're their mentors. We bring capital to the table, and we help them resolve issues that they have in the day-to-day business and give them the advice in stewardship and leadership that they need.
What was the operation like before you bought it?
It was a true mom pop, typical Southeast woodworker. The ex-owner started it out of his garage, was successful, but like most mom pop shops, got to a point where his success outgrew his business capabilities. He loved being in the shop, not the office. What we have done now is taken the office segment away from the business and treated that as a separate, to let the true woodworkers really run the business, and we take care of the administrative headaches for them.
Sounds like a good division of labor. What kind of changes did you make as far as production and new equipment and processes? What did you do there?
Well, I gave a speech on lean one time. The guy said, I don't have millions of dollars for all these fancy robots. And I said, lean is not about millions of dollars of investment. It starts with organization of your facilities complex, your process, the controls, your paper, everything about your business, and then refining it. And then you work yourself up. You get cost savings out of little projects that turn into bigger cost savings for medium-sized projects, which turn into investment to robots. We started our first year there, really organizing the business and cleaning it, refining it, educating the employee base, showing them a vision. That process saved so much money. We basically were able to raise the wage basis in our company by over 30%. That got the motivation of the workforce. From there, we took and invested some capital money into robotics. Kathy was the biggest driver. At this point of our life, I wanted to be a little bit more conservative, and she's like, step on the gas. This is too good. This is a great opportunity. And so we went with a fully integrated WinStore system with new rovers, automated material handling, where we took our cutting room and with a edge banner all in line. So everything's in line. One operator now runs the cutting process where it used to have 4 people. We did not eliminate any of those other 3 people. They've been absorbed into the growth of the business. And that's the whole premise about lean. Use lean as a factor to drive the growth of your business, and then increase the livelihood and, the quality of life for your employees. One thing about the woodworking industry that I've noticed quick, like a lot of other heavy duty American industries, skilled labor is aging, and it's up to management to find ways to extend the careers of the talent they have. And what we have done with the lean and the automation and the robots on the front end of the business has done just that. It's a continuing evolution. There are at least another 3 major projects on slate. Again, as good business people do, you use the capital to save money off the first savings. And as that generates, you already have plan B, C, and D all ready to go. And the team embraces it because they see the results, and they're participating in, or they receive some of the windfall too, in the increased wage benefits or wages, increased benefits, everything that we have done to give back to the employees.
That's a great way of approaching it. And for folks that are not really familiar with, you're talking about the SE WinStore system, which is a big automated material handling system. Can you explain a little bit of how that integrates with your CNC routers, the rovers that you were talking about? And how automated was the plant before you started putting this equipment in? Did you have any CNC automation at all beforehand?
The plant had CNCs in it, aged equipment. They had edge benders in there, aged equipment. And again, this comes back to modern manufacturing. When you start monitoring downtime, one of the first exercises, how often was the old edge bender broke down? How many man hours go into fixing it? How much did you lose in production that couldn't get out the door? So all those metrics, we teach the supervisors, and then it goes from there. When you're watching trucks get unloaded and you have an older building that has narrow doors, and you have 2 guys that have to block and tackle the extended pallets of wood, and take an hour and a half to unload a truck, to where you spend $8,000, put in a wider 15-foot door where a guy can go off the forklift and unload the truck in 10 minutes. It's simple math. Then it becomes that. And then when you empower the supervisors to make decisions like that if they come to you, I have this idea, here's the cost, here's where I think it'll pay off, and you validate that math, you've just empowered an employee to make a decision. And it's absolutely awesome to see. It is absolutely, when you see employees start to grab a hold of it like they're the owners, and they start making those decisions, that's the time when you know that everything you've done has really paid off.
So you didn't have any opposition to automating these processes, bringing in high-tech equipment?
Of the 38 original employees, 35 of the original group is still there, 34, 35. So no opposition to it. I think we had only one person that just, when you start throwing away inventory, it drove that person, it drove that person into like, you can't throw this stuff away. You can't throw this stuff away. And you're trying to educate him the cost of the labor, because we're trying to raise the wages. So you're trying to take the overhead cost and show to him that when you're paying somebody $20 an hour plus, that it costs you, a certain amount of money per hour to go find parts, to go look for stuff. It's cheaper to throw it away. Order just in time, bring in just what you need. If you have a piece or two left over, be done with it, scrap it. That person had a very hard time. And even though after we did a math exercise on some aged out inventory at $1 a bracket, when we found out and did the math, we had 11 brackets, $11 worth of inventory. They would have taken $15 worth of labor to go find them and utilize them. I said, what should you do with the brackets? And he said, you want to spend $15 for $11 worth of material. So I guess we should throw them away. And as I'm walking away, He had us sit there, but we would have used them someday.
Someday, if you could find them.
Yes. And the before pictures and after pictures say it the best, because when you stack up stuff that you're going to use someday, before you know it, you got stuff on the roof, you got stuff in the corners, you got stuff everywhere. Stuff. And in a modern plant today, labor is your number one cost. Everything you do has to be looked at saving labor.
That's it for today, but we'll have more of our interview with Kathy and Tony Everett of Millwork on 31st in our next podcast. If you are looking for more of our podcasts, you can find all of them at woodworkingnetwork.com/podcasts and in popular podcast channels. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Thanks again to today's sponsor, FDMC Magazine. If you have a comment or a topic you'd like us to explore, contact me at will.sampson@woodworkingnetwork.com. Thanks for listening.